On a quiet evening in a private residential area known to be one of the preferred neighborhoods for South Korean celebrities, the appearance of BTS's Suga drew public and media attention after a photo surfaced showing him standing near the open trunk of a black car with a sleek metallic suitcase by his side. Notably without any HYBE staff or official management team accompanying him, a rare sight given the long-standing protocol surrounding the movements of top-tier idols for both personal and professional engagements. In the circulating image, Suga is seen wearing a dark hoodie emblazoned with his name in bold lettering, casual shorts, white socks, and comfortable sneakers, all of which reinforce the impression that this was not a formal outing or part of an agency-coordinated schedule, but rather a personal decision carried out with quiet independence. Though there has been no official confirmation regarding the purpose of his departure, the setting, marked by a traditional-style home with warm yellow lights and a front porch furnished with rattan chairs, suggests that the photo was not taken at HYBE's corporate facilities or an airport, but instead in a familiar and private environment. There are no visible company logos, no security personnel, and no signs of logistical support vehicles, indicating a solo departure devoid of the usual trappings of a major celebrity's travel. The focus of attention naturally centers on the absence of HYBE staff, who typically handle everything from logistics and security to media coordination whenever a prominent artist like Suga moves about, especially when it involves luggage. Industry observers have noted a growing trend among top K-pop stars to carve out more privacy and personal space as they reach a point of stability in their careers, and this scene may reflect a similar shift by Suga toward self-directed travel without agency oversight. Even so, such a move remains notable given the structured nature of artist-agency dynamics within the K-pop industry, especially with a group as globally significant as BTS. Fans reacting to the image on social media expressed a mix of emotions, with many feeling proud to see their idol embracing personal freedom, while others voiced mild concern over his apparent solitude and lack of official escort or further information about his destination. However, the majority of comments conveyed support and respect for Suga's privacy, acknowledging his well-known preference for maintaining a strong boundary between his public persona and private life. Lifestyle commentators observed that this moment may signal a new chapter of autonomy for the artist, not necessarily in terms of musical direction but in how he manages his personal affairs away from the constant spotlight. As of the time of reporting, neither HYBE nor Suga has released a statement regarding this outing, and there has been no follow-up coverage from major entertainment news outlets that typically document celebrity departures from Incheon or Gimpo international airports, which further supports the view that this was a deliberately low-profile move. Still, the understated nature of the moment offers a unique glimpse into the quieter, more grounded side of a global superstar choosing to navigate life with simplicity and control, outside the orchestrated framework that usually surrounds every step of a public figure's life. The scene continued to develop quietly as no further media captured Suga's next steps after the initial image was released, leaving only a few sparse details to be analyzed by entertainment observers and fans alike who noted the consistency in his demeanor and presentation, unhurried, comfortable, and resolutely self-contained. With the car's trunk open and his suitcase positioned neatly at his side, Suga appeared to be handling every detail of his preparation alone, including organizing his luggage and navigating the logistics of his departure without the usual entourage that often includes managers, stylists, or bodyguards. Observers familiar with standard K-pop travel protocol pointed out how uncommon it is for artists of his level to move without administrative assistance, not due to personal incapacity but because of the layers of security, branding, and operational planning that normally govern even the most mundane travel scenarios for global celebrities. What stood out in this instance was not just the absence of agency personnel but the overall tone of the moment, subdued and almost meditative in nature, as if Suga had intentionally chosen simplicity over spectacle, privacy over coordination. Industry insiders commented that such decisions are often rooted in a desire for mental clarity or personal reset, especially following periods of high activity or transitions in professional roles, though no direct link was made to any ongoing promotional cycle or official BTS group activity. The quiet nature of this outing aligned closely with Suga's established personality, known for being introspective, independent, and highly self-directed in both music and life outside the studio. A few outlets speculated that he may be en route to a short personal retreat, a creative break, or even a visit to someone within his close circle, yet all commentary remained speculative due to the lack of any definitive signifiers or statements. The car he stood beside was also noted for its anonymity. A standard black vehicle without luxury branding or driver interaction captured in frame, reinforcing the idea that this was a low-key, personally managed activity rather than an orchestrated appearance. The surrounding environment also contributed to this atmosphere. The soft glow of outdoor lighting, the enclosed front yard space, and the visible furniture on the porch all indicated a setting chosen for comfort rather than presentation, possibly hinting that the starting point of this journey was a friend's home, a personal residence, or even a quiet temporary stay before onward travel. Throughout the day and into the evening, online platforms remained active with discussions and reposts of the original image, yet no secondary angles or follow-up sightings emerged, suggesting that the outing was either very brief or that Suga successfully maintained discretion during subsequent movements. For longtime fans, this only added to their appreciation of his ability to operate on his own terms without compromising his authenticity, reinforcing the respect many have for his grounded presence despite his global fame. Media coverage remained balanced, with most headlines choosing not to sensationalize the moment but rather acknowledge it as a rare glimpse into a private routine that celebrities of his status rarely share, willingly or otherwise. By the time night fully set in, the image had already become one of the most quietly talked about celebrity moments of the day, not for what was said or revealed, but for what it reflected about the quiet agency and maturity of an artist choosing to step outside the spotlight for a moment of personal direction. No disruptions, no paparazzi chase, and no drama unfolded. Just a calm departure handled entirely in solitude. A snapshot of real life amidst an industry built on spectacle. As the evening progressed and the image of Suga standing beside the car with his suitcase continued to circulate widely across online communities, the atmosphere surrounding the situation remained calm and reflective, with media outlets maintaining a respectful distance and refraining from drawing hasty conclusions about the purpose of his solo movement. While the internet buzzed with interest, the lack of follow-up photographs or reports suggested that Suga had likely left the location shortly after the photo was taken, moving swiftly and quietly to his next destination without drawing attention or triggering further coverage. Some reporters speculated that he may have coordinated a private pickup, perhaps a personal driver or a trusted contact, given the absence of any visible chauffeur or transportation staff in the captured moment. What made the situation particularly noteworthy was the contrast between the public's instinctive curiosity and the calm restraint displayed by both fans and media, with many choosing to interpret the scene not as a cause for concern but as a window into the normalcy and simplicity that even a global figure like Suga might seek. The setting itself continued to fuel subtle observations. The modest surroundings, the unremarkable vehicle, the casual attire, all of which hinted at a desire to move freely, without pretense or production. Journalists familiar with the operations of K-pop agencies noted how this type of movement is logistically possible when the artist has no scheduled press appearances or official travel agenda, further supporting the idea that this was a self-initiated journey. The fact that no airport sightings, fan crowd videos, or flight tracking surfaced in the hours following further underlined how intentionally private this moment was meant to be. Within fan communities, the discussion shifted toward respect and quiet admiration, with many praising Suga's ability to maintain such discretion and control over his personal life, something increasingly difficult in the age of digital surveillance and non-stop media attention. Even longtime fans who have followed BTS's career from debut commented on how this moment felt in line with his character. Someone who values space, reflection, and solitude, and who, despite global fame, consistently chooses to operate with integrity and intention. As the night wore on, hashtags referencing the moment began trending, not with speculative content but with thoughtful posts appreciating his right to move as a private citizen, highlighting the maturity of the fan base and the artist-fan relationship that has been built over years of mutual respect. Entertainment writers emphasized that while such moments may seem uneventful on the surface, they offer rare insight into the offstage reality of idol life, where quiet departures and simple acts like packing a suitcase and leaving a house alone carry deeper significance about autonomy and personal growth. There was no media frenzy, no emergency response from the agency, and no viral scandal. Just a singular moment frozen in a still image that told a story of quiet independence and personal rhythm. By morning, the image had already found its place among those subtle but meaningful snapshots in the larger narrative of Suga's public life, a reminder that even the most celebrated figures occasionally choose simplicity over spectacle, and that sometimes, the most impactful statements are made without a single word. As the new day began without any additional sightings or updates regarding Suga's whereabouts, the narrative surrounding his quiet departure settled into a steady rhythm of thoughtful analysis and subdued curiosity among fans, media, and entertainment insiders who continued to reflect on the rare moment of independence displayed by one of the most recognizable figures in the global music industry. The lack of agency commentary or media clarification, which in other situations might have led to excessive speculation, was instead met with collective understanding that not all movements by a public figure require explanation, especially when framed so clearly as a personal decision. The public conversation gradually shifted toward broader themes such as the evolving relationship between idols and their management structures, with commentators noting how the balance of power has slowly tilted over the years toward more autonomy for seasoned artists like Suga who have proven their capability to operate with professionalism and discretion. Several journalists with long experience covering BTS remarked that this type of moment would have been nearly unthinkable a decade ago when every movement of an idol, no matter how minor, was tightly choreographed by agencies concerned with image and public perception. Yet now, scenes like this reflect a maturing industry where trust and independence can coexist with fame. The image of Suga, dressed in a hoodie, handling his own luggage, and standing alone in a quiet driveway, continued to circulate across platforms not as a scandalous or sensational moment, but as a touchstone for fans to appreciate the human side of an artist often seen through the polished lens of stage lights and performance schedules. Lifestyle columnists weighed in by discussing the value of solitude for artists living under constant pressure, suggesting that such small moments of personal freedom can play an essential role in maintaining long-term well-being, creativity, and authenticity, especially for individuals like Suga who are known for deeply introspective work. The fact that the scene contained no chaos, no distractions, and no exaggerated expression allowed viewers to focus purely on the quiet agency of the moment, resonating particularly with those who admire simplicity and intentional living. Even the absence of new images or leaks was read positively, indicating that his personal boundaries had been respected by those who may have been aware of his movements but chose not to document them. A rare but welcome gesture in today's media environment. Some segments of the public drew comparisons to similar moments in the lives of other public figures who have recently made efforts to step outside the hypercurated reality of celebrity culture to reclaim personal time and space, reinforcing the notion that even icons are entitled to normalcy without constant observation. In online forums, fans shared stories of how this one image reminded them of the importance of rest, reflection, and unaccompanied journeys in their own lives, creating a ripple effect of appreciation that extended far beyond the entertainment sphere. As coverage of the moment began to wane and other headlines took over the trending topics, the image of Suga remained quietly present in the digital consciousness, an understated symbol of independence and the subtle ways in which public figures navigate their humanity behind the spotlight. With no further details emerging and no dramatic developments unfolding, the story concluded as it began, with a still frame of a quiet departure, leaving behind only the impression of an artist choosing, for a brief moment, to walk alone, unannounced, and on his own terms. In the hours and days that followed, the moment quietly faded from trending charts yet remained preserved in the minds of those who saw something meaningful in its simplicity. As the image of Suga managing his own departure without the typical presence of staff or handlers became emblematic of a larger, quieter shift in the nature of celebrity life, where autonomy and privacy are increasingly recognized as forms of power rather than retreat. Entertainment outlets moved on to cover the next cycle of public events, but within fan communities and among media professionals who had long covered BTS, the tone remained one of thoughtful respect rather than lingering speculation. No additional statements were released by HYBE, and no retrospective commentary emerged from Suga himself, reinforcing the likelihood that this was not an incident to be explained, but a private moment to be acknowledged and then left to rest. The understated nature of the entire situation served as a gentle counterpoint to the more typical narrative arcs often seen in entertainment reporting, where every movement or absence is analyzed for deeper meaning or future implications. Instead, this moment stood out precisely because it resisted that pattern, offering instead a story that asked nothing from its observers but a pause, a breath, and perhaps a reflection on the quiet decisions that shape even the lives of the most visible public figures. Among fellow artists and industry professionals, The image sparked private discussions about boundaries and lifestyle choices, particularly for individuals who have spent more than a decade under the microscope of global fame and corporate structure. It reminded many that true control is often expressed not in grand gestures but in subtle actions. A decision to pack a suitcase oneself, to step outside without a team, to embrace stillness in a driveway rather than prepare for performance. Fans continued to share the image and their thoughts in personal spaces, often without hashtags or tags, treating the moment with the kind of quiet dignity they felt it deserved. This silent digital dialogue became its own form of tribute, a way of saying that not every movement by a beloved artist needs to be shared, understood, or turned into content. And in that silence, there was room for a broader recognition of the humanity behind the name, the life lived between albums, the individual behind the artistry. The image never became a headline beyond its first day, nor did it evolve into a scandal, and in that way it succeeded in doing what many rare celebrity moments fail to do. It remained whole, real, and untouched by distortion. As the week moved on and Suga's public schedule resumed with its usual structure and appearances, the moment faded gracefully into the background, not erased but simply accepted as part of a larger rhythm. A quiet walk out the door, a suitcase in hand, and the presence of someone who, even after achieving everything, still seeks and protects the space to simply be himself.